Hey everybody, welcome to this episode. I'm in a remote location as you can tell, so this is the best we can do with it. But as you see the title of this video as well as the thumbnail, today's topic is quite sad. But to get started, we have some really weird news about oil on July 2nd. And it's a story by the Beijing newspaper, and they basically investigated how transport tankers, like oil tankers in China, would transport like crude oil, or in this case, this will be fossil fuel, from one location to another. And then without washing the inside of the tanker, they would drive into a soybean oil plant and then transport soybean oil in that same tanker that just loaded fossil fuel, basically. And then this story was very explosive in China. So that was July 2nd, right? And then 2 days later, or 3 days later, one of the companies responsible for food grade oil, so in this case, soybean oil, edible oil, says that everything complies with relevant laws and regulation. Now, obviously, knowing China, this is not the case. So they then started to spread this information online, right? A day prior to that, even Xinhua News, which is Chinese state media, sort of basically reposted this story and saying how it is an open secret in the tanker transportation industry. Sorry about this translation thing here, but it just kind of covers the letters. That food liquids and chemical liquids are mixed and transported without cleaning, similar to unloading coal to oil. Coal to oil is a Google translation mistake, but it basically means fossil fuel. And directly loading edible soybean oil. It has become I think that says operation, daily operation for tank drivers. In this regard, it is urgent to strengthen industry supervision and ensure food safety. So when we're talking about like gutter oil, as we've all become very familiar with, is disgusting. They basically recycle and reuse oil that's in the sewage. They take it out and then they repurpose it for restaurant use. But then now imagine this, right? You go to a restaurant, you're like, "Do you guys have gutter oil?" They're like, "Oh, no, we have fresh oil for your hot pot or whatever you're cooking with." But then your soybean oil, your peanut oil, is transported in a tanker that's used to transport industrial grade, crude oil. That is very disgusting. So that's a little bit tidbit into our topic today, which is actually about a very tragic piece of news from China. So this is a woman who, at the age of 30, unfortunately ended because of what recently has been happening in China, which is a downgrade in many of these government companies in their salary. So CICC is and Bloomberg actually talked about this. So CICC is like China's investment banking giant. And the title of this is pretty funny. It says China's investment bankers join the Communist Party as morale and paychecks shrink. Once a symbol of Beijing's ambitions in finance, CICC is fighting for its future. So being in the premier investment bank, you basically are guaranteed a certain amount of financial access, right? So when the time was right for the last 2 decades, these people were basically at the top of the pyramid when it comes to handling money because they're investment bankers. And then suddenly, because the economy is so bad, they had a salary cut. Now, this woman went through 2 rounds of salary cuts. So everybody's talking about how beautiful she is, which I find to not be the main purpose of this story. Uh, but so she was born in 1994, and her husband also received a salary downgrade, a salary cut, and they both are involved in a huge amount of money in their mortgage. Which, if I scroll down, it'll tell you the precise amount. So their total mortgage is 11.7 million yuan, which if I plug that into the currency exchange, is that $1.6 million worth of mortgage that they have. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the screenshot for when they will end up paying it off. They still have, so they bought this starting in October of 2023. and it's supposed to end on 2053, and so this is the amount they still have left. So they basically paid off not that much, right? Obviously, they were quite wealthy, I would say, before then. Suddenly got a salary cut in the midst of this year's, like, what supposedly was or supposed to be the year that the economy bounces back, but it obviously didn't. Both her and her husband went through the first round, and then according to more information, it suggests that she has to pay every month. She has to pay about 60,000 in just the mortgage payment. So 5 to 60,000, 50 to 60,000. Sorry, would be 50. Let's do the higher end. So that's 60,000. Be $8,254 US dollars per month at the the top end of her payment every month, right? So just imagine that, how much money they were making if you're able to pay like 8,300 every month for your mortgage payment. So obviously the salary cuts, and I believe she was also pregnant, and yeah, it's a very shocking thing because it's such a representation of what the situation is in China. And says she was allegedly started to get depressed and to start to have like mental breakdowns in March. Some people were saying that she was also heavily invested into the stock market, which obviously it's also doing poorly. But I think the main purpose here is that the drop in wages, they can't repay their mortgage, so one chose this way to end, which I think it's a very sad way to go. But that is precisely the pressure that people in China face. And so what was once the highest paying position perhaps in finance in China is now facing. So like we're talking about the higher, right, the upper end of the spectrum in terms of what people's experiences are like in China. Okay, now according to the Bloomberg's report, which I find this to be a really good summary of it, it says the swelling ranks of badge-wearing communists at CICC, roughly a third of its bankers are now party members. Insiders say underscore the hard new realities for Wall Street-style capitalists in the China of Xi Jinping. And it was founded 3 decades ago as China's answer to American finance. CICC today is in the throes of a counter-revolution, heeding Xi's call for common prosperity and party criticism for financiers' hedonistic lifestyle. CICC has cast aside the hard-charging ways of Wall Street and its dream of one day challenging the giants of global finance. Now, obviously, the state media paints it as if the end of the 30-year-old is because of psychological health. Well, I mean, you kind of understand that why they would frame it like this, because they want to blame it on mental health. They want to blame it on this being an individual case, which in the grand scheme of things, it's really not the first time that somebody has done this. If you just go on Twitter, you might be able to see there's been a lot of similar cases, not in the field of investment banking, but in other fields, sometimes even just young people meeting the same end because they simply can't take it anymore. So this is not something that's a psychological cause. This is a reason. It's a combination, obviously, of social pressure. You're looking at a period right now in China where you have millions of new college grads who are unable to find a job, people who are in their early 20s unable to find a job in the career path that they went to college for. And then you look at the best of the best, the 1% of that age group, right? 30-year-old investment banker now feeling this way. So I think this is much more than just a psychological thing. It's obviously to do with the harsh reality in China today.